I'm Deb Levine. My topic is consent of cognitively impaired subjects for research. Slide 2 shows the problem. I'm planning a study of cognitive impairment after stroke. Some of the adults in my planned study will have cognitive impairment at baseline or will develop it during the course of the study. I am unsure of the rules governing the consent of cognitively impaired subjects for research participation. Slide 3 shows the sources of my research. I reviewed the U of M Human Research Protection Program Operations Manual Part 3 from June 2012. This resource was extremely helpful. I also read Chapter 6 of the Department of Health and Human Services IRB Guidebook on cognitively impaired persons, as well as other HHS and FDA government sources. I reviewed information about the Common Rule 45 and contacted IRB Med directly about designating cognitively impaired adults as study participants in an e-research application. Finally, I did a search of the literature using Google Scholar and PubMed searches for research with cognitively impaired subjects. Interestingly, on slide 4, persons who are cognitively impaired or lack decision-making capacity are considered a vulnerable population. However, there are no specific federal regulations, either OHRP or IRB, governing cognitively impaired adults as research subjects, in contrast to specific regulations about research with children, for example, another vulnerable population. Similarly, there are no Michigan laws requiring special consent for cognitively impaired adults per se. However, dementia theoretically, in my opinion, could be a terminal illness for which there is a Michigan law requiring special consent. It is not clear, however, whether this is how the law is interpreted. Laws on who may consent on behalf of cognitively impaired adults vary by state. Slide 5 shows that there is a critical role of the local IRB. So the IRB and the PI decide the appropriate procedures and safeguards of the consent of cognitively impaired adults for research. The IRB decides the need and protocol for the initial and ongoing assessment of participants' capacity to consent, subject's consent or assent. That is, a patient can a subject can agree in spirit to participate in the research. The IRB also decides the need and protocol for surrogate or proxy consent, for example, by the subject's legally authorized representative, whether there and how there will be reconsent of a subject or legal representative of the subject during the course of the study, and whether there needs to be a consent auditor or specialist. U of M does have a document shown on slide 6 of who can consent, and patients with Alzheimer's disease do have an order of preference shown there. And one is encouraged to call the health system legal office if they have additional questions. There have been, however, calls for more guidance from several entities shown on page 7 and from specific legal and medical authors. And all of the citations are shown there. My decision is to implement a structured protocol for assessing cognitive impairment, decision-making capacity, and ability to consent. The latter based on the work of Applebaum and Grisso, as well as other ongoing studies with which I'm participating, to try to obtain the following during the course of my study: consent and prospective consent for all able subjects, that is, all subjects who are capable of making decisions and having the ability to consent. I would also like to consent of the legally authorized representative for all subjects, impaired and unimpaired, so that in the future, if subjects do become impaired, then the legally authorized representative has been aware of and agreeable to the study in the past, as well as try to obtain assent for impaired subjects. I do need to find out from the health system legal office whether dementia is considered a terminal illness, and I do plan to disseminate my research to my mentors and get their feedback and experience as well before I proceed with my grant. I do also plan to disseminate my knowledge, my research and plan to my division colleagues and research team in meetings. I have found this to be a useful exercise, and I'm glad that I've had the opportunity. Thank you so much.